All right, I believe we're live. Hello and good evening. Thank you all for tuning in to tonight's program. Wherever you are, Teaneck, other parts of North Jersey, Central Jersey, South Jersey, anywhere in the United States, anywhere around the world. I'm thrilled that you've plugged in into tonight's program, and I'm hoping we make good use of your time. So today we'll be having a conversation about fair and affordable housing, the township of Teaneck, and what it means to advocate for marginalized and low-income communities. We've titled tonight's program "Housing Segregation in Teaneck: Is This Who We Are?" And in a minute, we're going to go into details of our topic. But first, I'd like to start off by introducing myself. My name's Elam Okansi. I'm a housing organizer with Fair Share Housing Center. And the bulk of my work really is helping everyday people get access to life-changing housing opportunities. So I'm thrilled today to be joined by two wonderful and experienced fair housing advocates. So it's my honor to introduce you all to Denise Belcher and Josh Bowers.
Great. Hello.
Denise, Josh, welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us. How
Thank
you
you for
guys?
having.
No
Good.
for
problem.
having us.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm hoping we have a really great conversation about affordable housing, advocating for low-income communities, and really just giving the community of Teaneck an opportunity to know what's going on in their own neighborhood. So I'm gonna pass it off to Denise. Could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, the work you do in Teaneck, and why you're interested in having this conversation today?
Sure, sure. Again, thanks for having me. I want to start out by saying I'm a lifelong resident of Bergen County, North Jersey here. I've lived here most of my life with the exception of college. And for the most part, who I am, I'm a mother. I'm a resident of Teaneck. I'm a mother of two wonderful daughters who have gone through the public school system, graduated from the Teaneck public school system. And I'm a homeowner in town. For the last 35 years, I am a business owner as well for the last 20 years. I consider myself a community activist in that I serve and have served on a few different civic and advocacy organizations, kind of all in the housing space. I'm for instance, in business space, I'm a former president of the Teaneck Chamber of Commerce. I am a former planning board member, and I'm involved with several other advocacy organizations. And I'm glad to be, invited to be here today because I think there are several things that are important. As a real estate broker and director of a licensing school, I have an interest in advocating for fair and equitable housing. Because as a real estate broker, I feel like I've over the years have advocated even for buyers to buy into Teaneck. Why? Because Teaneck historically has been a town that has checked all the boxes for buyers. It's a very diverse community in the Northeast part of our state. Our median sales price, for instance, in the last 12 months has been about 81% of our county median sales price. It is affordable. It is diverse. As I said, Teaneck is one of the very first town in our nation that voluntarily voted to integrate our public schools in the 1960s. So we have that as a historical perspective. And lastly, I feel like I'm a student of history, and that I've seen what housing segregation has and continues to do in underserved and underrepresented communities. Unfortunately, discrimination in housing has manifested itself in so many different ways, from things such as steering and redlining and municipal ordinances and development site plans and deed restrictions. So it's very, very important that we teach fair housing We teach it to our agents. I teach it, involved with real estate agents. In fact, interestingly enough, the New Jersey Real Estate Commission just this year mandated that fair housing be added as a required CE course, because of the fact that there are so many people selling real estate that don't really understand the full scope of fair housing. So that is something as well. So here again, I'm glad to be here, and I just wanted to share a little bit about myself.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for joining. We can just tell that you have a wealth of knowledge to share with us. So it's gonna be a great conversation. Josh, I'll popcorn to you to really just, same question. Tell us about yourself, the work you do, and why you're here today to have this conversation about Teaneck and housing segregation.
Thank you. Yes, so I'm Josh Bowers. I'm a staff attorney here with Fair Share Housing Center. We are a statewide organization that really has spent the last 45 years, five of which I've been on board, really just advocating for affordable housing across the state. In all four corners of New Jersey, from north to south, from east to west, including in Bergen County and in Teaneck. We've really spent, the last 5 years have been spent litigating with, negotiating with, mediating with the various municipalities in New Jersey and various developers in New Jersey to try to foster more affordable housing, more inclusive communities, and to try to help municipalities really get to a point where they've addressed their affordable housing obligations. We've really spent, as I said, the last 5 years doing that. I think at this point we've now reached settlement agreements with well over 50 Bergen County municipalities, including Teaneck. And so we have a settlement agreement in place with Teaneck that calls for a variety of different sites to be rezoned, and different places where affordable housing would be constructed in inclusionary fashion. And I think that's really the key focal point of the conversation is inclusion. That's really why we care to have this conversation. Is that it's really important to talk about fostering inclusive communities, not just building affordable housing in your community, but building affordable housing in a way that is inclusive. And when we see things like segregating the affordable units in a different location, or in a different location than the market rate units, that sort of raises some eyebrows. And so that's really the reason we want to have this conversation. I'll say with the same breath that we're not having this conversation in order to roast Teaneck or to make Teaneck out to be a bad town or have done all these bad things. Quite the contrary. We've had a very positive experience with Teaneck over the years, where they've stepped up to the plate a number of different times, building affordable housing, building inclusionary developments. All of the developments in Teaneck elsewhere that we're aware of have integrated the affordable housing throughout. Teaneck has adopted set-aside ordinances, so that way when new residential developments are approved, there's a set-aside, there's an inclusionary set-aside that's included. That's super important, obviously. Teaneck has also done a great job of marketing their affordable housing units in a way that really draws on folks across Teaneck and also across Bergen County and beyond to, as Denise was saying, trying to draw people in to come and live in Teaneck, which is a very, it's a wonderful place to live, and a wonderful place to raise a family. So, we feel strongly that this is not about, roasting Teaneck or anything like that. We think that Teaneck has done a very good job in providing affordable housing in a number of different areas. But we want to have this conversation because it's important. I think not just in Teaneck, but in other Bergen County and and other New Jersey municipalities and other developers to really think about how we actually build the affordable housing and which ways make the most sense, and how we actually foster inclusive communities.
Wow, you guys have just like done a lot of amazing things. I'm not even sure where to pick up from. I guess I'll start with inclusive communities and pass it on to Denise to really tell us the main reason why we're here today. Just with somebody with your experience being on the planning board, for 3 years, just knowing how development happens, because people live in Teaneck, people just concern themselves with their everyday matters, and the process of something going from just a plan on a piece of paper to a building where people can live in. It's not something that's commonplace. It's not something that happens every day in normal discussions. So Denise, you have an expertise that you brought over to us. Could you just tell us what happened at the last 2 planning board meetings and why it matters?
Sure, absolutely. Just in terms of our township, on the November 12th meeting of the planning board, there was testimony given by a particular developer regarding this site located at 520 Palisades Avenue in our township, and it's in a residential area. It's known as specifically the an old soap factory is what it's called. And this application seeks the construction of a multifamily residential complex of roughly about 62 townhouses and 16 affordable housing townhouses that are affordable housing units, I should say. There were some variances that were presented as a part of the application. But what's at issue here is that the proposed affordable housing units are to be built or located in the back of the complex, or the back of the development, in a separate building, clearly separate and segregated from the 62 market townhouses. The settlement agreement that Josh just explained was approved by the planning board on February 28th, 2019. And a part of that settlement agreement basically sought that Teaneck's constitutional obligation is to provide for its fair share of low and moderate income housing. And of course, it was a directive from the Superior Court, as well as from, based upon the New Jersey Fair Housing Act of 1985. But what was that issue, or what is that issue, is it is not the nature of the fact that these units are segregated or separate from the market rate units, the market rate townhouses, is what makes this site plan so disturbing, because it is it's a total departure from what the settlement agreement speaks to. The Affordable Housing Settlement Agreement was approved by the planning board in February, and the town council, and of course the courts. This ordinance covers not only new construction, but the design of the affordable housing units must be integrated into the market rate units. And that here again is what's at issue here. So you ask yourself, you ask the question, what is at stake, Elam? Well, what's at stake is, for instance, that very night that this was presented, one of the planning board members said, after hearing and seeing the site plans, is this where the poor people live? So it's clearly even seen that way. I mean, that could have been said in jest, but the fact of the matter is that is what causes valuations of homes to be impacted when you have separate and facilities like this. So some have asked the question, is this who Teaneck is? And I venture to say this is not who we are.
Wow. Yeah, I think I could add a little bit to that, because I first heard about this maybe a month ago. my executive director, Adam Gordon, he got a call from this one guy, Charles Powers, who's a local Teaneck resident. He cares about, his community. So he shows up to planning board meetings to speak. And he left a voicemail about what the plan that the planning board just approved. And I listened to the voicemail, and I figured, wait, are they building affordable housing and they're going to put all the affordable housing units in one building, and then all the market rate units are going to be different? That's weird. And so just to cut the story short, I remember I was in the last planning board meeting, and I looked through Teaneck's ordinance, and I found Teaneck's affordable housing ordinance really details how Teaneck is going to meet its obligation to build affordable housing. And I found in there is just one sentence that says, to the extent possible, all affordable housing unit have to be integrated with market rate units. So I was like, oh, okay, this is it. So I'll just show up to a planning board meeting. I'll let them know. They'll fix it, and everything will be great. And I showed up, and it didn't go great. So, Josh, I'll pass it to you as somebody who's advocated and litigated for affordable housing throughout the state of New Jersey. Why is it significant that the Teaneck Planning Board allowed for KRE to come and present the site plan and basically approve the construction of segregated affordable housing units?
Well, I think it's significant for a couple of reasons. I think you and Denise have both already mentioned it, which is that, it's not what Teaneck has done in the past. It's not what's in the ordinance. The ordinance is very clear that you're supposed to integrate the affordable housing. And I think that, I want to speak for a minute about, why it's important to have the affordable housing integrated, throughout the development, rather than segregating and putting the market rate in, over here, and putting the affordable housing in a separate building. I think that there are really, principled reasons, and there are also practical reasons. Principled reasons are the things that we all care about here. And I know that, we care about this at Fair Share Housing Center. And I know that many of the folks in Teaneck care about fostering, as I've said, fostering an inclusive community. It's really important to integrate the affordable housing with the market rate, for many of the same reasons that it's important to build affordable housing in these suburban communities in the first place, so we can actually foster some more inclusive communities, rather than just having poor people just sort of living over in the city somewhere, and having all the wealthy people out in the suburb. I think it's sort of like hand in a glove. It all really fits together. I think Denise hit on another one of the important points, principled points, which is stigma. When we talk about affordable housing, oftentimes, we hear the term poor door, or, that sort of thing, where folks that go to this development will know where the poor people live very easily. And I think that's problematic, because that's not inclusive. And, I think the idea is that we want to try to have folks that are moving into Teaneck become a part of the community, rather than feel like they've been stigmatized and put in a separate building. I think there's also practical reasons for why it makes sense to build integrated affordable housing in these inclusionary developments, for how we actually get affordable housing constructed. As I mentioned before, the law requires it, not just Teaneck's ordinance, but Teaneck's ordinance actually reflects statewide regulations that make it clear that you're supposed to integrate the affordable housing. But the reasons behind that, in some ways, are practical. Namely, when you go and when the market rate developer is building the development, they're required to phase in the affordable housing units in a certain sequence. That way, the market rate developer is not going to build all of their market rate units and then maybe later on down the line build the affordables, or maybe they just don't build the affordables because they've already gotten the thing that they want. not saying that that's the case here. I'm just saying that that's when we do segregated affordable housing units, it sort of invites that kind of behavior, and it happens. We've litigated this issue in a number of different places. Other practical things are, not necessarily present here in this development, but things like amenities for the housing that's being built. In some of the bigger developments, there may be a swimming pool, or there may be, some kind of recreational amenities. And when you segregate out the affordables, sometimes what can happen is to further segregate people, the developer will only allow market rate, the residents of the market rate units to have access to the amenities. That's obviously ridiculous, and so we want to avoid that. Another issue, or and sort of in the same vein, are things like the homeowners association, and making sure that we have that the owners of the affordable housing units are able to participate in the homeowners association in the same way as the owners of the market rate units. And so there are very compelling reasons why we ought to strive for inclusive, integrated, affordable housing. I think I mentioned before we got started, there are a few discrete instances where it may make sense to do the affordable housing in a separate building. For instance, the market rate developer who's agreed to provide affordable housing, their market rate product is going to be for sale, but they're going to provide their affordable housing as rental. And it's often more difficult to integrate the rental into the for sale because of, literally because of practical reasons, like financing the development, actually getting financing to construct the thing. So that's not present here. These are all going to be for sale units. We've seen developers do integrated affordable housing units where the affordable housing is for sale and the market rate housing is for sale. We've seen them do it when we're talking about townhome developments, where maybe you do a couple townhomes that are market rate, and then you build a building that's a couple stacked flats or something like that, that sort of looks like a townhome from the front, from the outside, but inside it's actually two homes for that are affordable. I said all that to say, there are really great reasons to integrate. There are a few okay reasons not to integrate, and we have a lot of examples of developers across the state doing integrated affordable housing units, even in for sale developments.
Yeah, I think if you want to highlight situations that are unique, where you have a reasonable plan to not integrate the affordable housing units, and we can talk about that, but then that's a different conversation. What we have here is Teaneck has a ordinance that states that to the extent possible, affordable housing unit must be integrated with market rate units. And we had a plan that was presented to the planning board that clearly didn't meet that standard. And so that just brings up this question that I got to ask Denise. Like, you're a Teaneck resident, you've been on the planning board, you know what Teaneck stands for. Is this it? Is this something you think the community, the people who live in Teaneck, are just gonna, just sit down and be okay with, or do you have something else to tell us?
Well, you know what, Elam, what I would say about, my neighbors in Teaneck, Teaneck residents, are thoughtful, they're intelligent, they're concerned citizens who want to serve our community in the best way possible. They want to know that leadership is representing the township in the best light. Segregated affordable housing units are not the best light. The best way to know what someone thinks truly, if our leadership wants to know that, is to ask them, to allow them to speak out at good and welfare and to ask questions and have information sessions as a part of the collective development within our township. So allow people to express their thoughts at meetings openly. Teaneck has a ways to go to fulfill this settlement agreement, but I believe Teaneck residents want to enjoy our town. They want to see responsible development. Our residents are excited about change, excited about new developments. I know as a real estate broker, I'm excited about it. Our residents my neighbors are excited about it. Change is good. I mean, some 77% of our residents voted for Biden and Harris. So people like change. So that's a good thing. But in this climate of that we're in our country that we've gone through, we all know that facts are facts. Ordinances are ordinances. There's no such thing as an alternative ordinance. Okay, these are things that we are passing. A master plan is a master plan. And an illegal vote is a blemish on our township. Okay, it doesn't fare well for us, and that's why I think many of our residents are outraged. The town council needs to turn around this CRE site plan. They need to do the right thing. A vote in favor of this site plan is a vote against the affordable housing settlement agreement and in the master plan, and that plan is something that we have voted to uphold. So I simply say it's important that that our leadership understand that that's what our citizens want. Just for us, for them to do the right thing, for our planning board, for our town council to do the right thing.
Yeah, that's an awesome plea. Um, I don't know what I could add to that. I mean, I think this year especially has shown us that the things we write on paper that we stand for, they actually mean something. And if we're not gonna, defend it, if we're not gonna speak up to make our points clear to the leadership of our countries, the leadership of our towns, the leadership of our, cities, whatever you have, then what are we doing? Like, we have laws, we have regulation to guide the way we all operate, and it's important that they are followed and things are done the right way. So, Denise, I think you've said it. You told us what Teaneck is about, and I know tomorrow you have a township council meeting where people show up and talk about things that are going on in Teaneck. So this is one of the things that's going on in Teaneck. So hopefully people come out and speak about it. It's already 8:30. We really scheduled this conversation for 30 minutes, but I have one more question that I really want to ask Josh. And I think Josh, in your experience, Teaneck to be a town that has recently approved inclusionary developments. Like, we were in Teaneck early February for a presentation from Frank Piazza, who's the one guy that does a lot of administrative work with Teaneck's affordable housing. And I believe it was only 5 units that were going to be available for low income people to apply and hopefully move into. And we showed up to the meeting, and I think almost 200 people showed up at the public library. So the demand for affordable housing in Teaneck is huge. People want to get access to great housing opportunities. And so, Josh, could you tell us a little bit about Teaneck's record when it comes to developing affordable housing opportunities, and what's going on in Bergen County? Is Teaneck a special case, or are folks just doing things the right way?
Yeah, I mean, I think I already said that at the outset. We in our experience, Teaneck has done a lot of really great stuff. Rezoning, these kind of redevelopment sites, where you have something that's that's in need of redevelopment, and ultimately, you can rezone it and get some affordable housing units constructed. You mentioned that earlier this year, Teaneck held a just a really tremendous public information session talking about affordable housing. I think one of the developments had 5 affordable housing units that were coming online, and then there was another one that was also being advertised that had, I think, 10 or 15 or something like that. Just a place that's building affordable housing. Obviously, we all understand that not just in Teaneck, but across the state, there's a tremendous need for affordable housing. But Teaneck is one of the places in Bergen County that's really doing it in many respects the right way. Hasn't shied away from, as I said, rezoning sites that have outlived their utility, and getting multifamily development constructed, and not hiding behind a lot of the, and I know, not hiding behind a lot of the things that many of the other suburban towns hide behind in trying to oppose affordable housing. You asked about, many of, there are a lot of Bergen County towns that have done far less than Teaneck. And so, as I said at the outset, the idea here is not to roast Teaneck or to act like, they haven't done a good job. They have. I think we really just wanted to talk about this particular issue and this particular site, because in years past, Teaneck has integrated their affordable housing, and to their credit, KRE, the developer here, who has done a number of different developments across New Jersey, we have a lot of experience with them. They themselves have often, or most of the time, integrated the affordable housing throughout the development. So, we have a good experience with both of these entities. I think we just wanted to highlight that this is an issue in this particular instance. I think we're thrilled to have the conversation, and really excited for a lot of what Teaneck has in store in the next few years when it comes to affordable housing.
Yeah. I mean, we've gone over our time by 4 minutes. Unfortunately, I wish we could have made this a public forum where we could have taken some questions from the audience, but that won't be possible today. But hopefully tomorrow, we can have folks talk about this a little bit, and try to do the right thing. So I think it's now time for closing comments. I really don't have much to say. The title of today's program is Housing Segregation in Teaneck. Is this who you are? So I think tomorrow there's an opportunity for the Teaneck residents to let us know that they're not for segregated affordable housing. They're not for segregated housing. So hopefully, people will turn out and speak about things that matter to them. Denise, Josh, thank you so much for being here. I will pass it to Josh to just share his brief closing thoughts. What do you want? What do you want the folks in Teaneck to know?
Is that for me or Denise?
Josh, you can take that.
Josh,
and then
okay.
Denise.
Yeah. I mean, I've said it already. This Teaneck has done a great job over the years. We'd like to see integrated affordable housing. We're eager to work with Teaneck, going forward on this site and other sites in getting integrated inclusionary affordable housing in Teaneck. It's a great community with great schools for folks to move there. And you said at the outset, Ellum, that this is the housing that's going to get built in Teaneck, especially the affordable housing, is life-changing. And getting the opportunity to move to Teaneck for many families is a life-changing event in the positive sense. And so we're really excited to see this housing and others get built. And I just thank you for inviting me to participate tonight. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. I think we've all learned a lot today. Denise, I think we can close it off with you. You're a Teaneck resident. You've lived there for a long time. You've been on the planning board. You've done a lot of awesome things in Teaneck. closing thoughts. What do you want the
Sure.
folks in Teaneck to know?
Well, yes. Again, thank you for having this and hosting this. I think it's very important that we know and our citizens, our residents understand and know what the facts are. I think it's just important. I just go back to saying that the do the right thing based upon being guided by ordinances and master plans. I think that's what that's all people are basically saying. And that it's important that we operate in honesty and integrity. That is what I believe our residents are looking for, and to be led by values that are important to Teaneck, that has guided us through the many, many years, good and bad. But we always have been guided by equality and guided by moral courage. So all we're saying is have that courage to do the right thing, to make sure we are passing the right site plans based upon what our ordinances and master plan stands for. And lastly, I just want to indicate a quote from Martin Luther King, who says, "The arc of the moral universe is long. It bends toward justice." So we believe justice. We believe in the law. We believe in doing the right thing. And again, thank you for having me tonight.
Wow. I'm gonna close with MLK, huh? All right. Thank you, Denise. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Thank you, Josh. It's been a wonderful conversation. I don't know what more I could add. Just want to say tomorrow, town council meeting, folks to show out and talk about this and stand up for the laws and the ordinances and the master plans that you put on the record. So, to all the people on Facebook, wherever you're watching, thank you for tuning in. And we hope to do more of these programs to let the public know about what's going on in the state of New Jersey around affordable housing and advocating for low-income communities. My name is Elam. I've been your facilitator, your moderator today. And I'd like to thank Josh for coming on tonight. I'd like to thank Denise for coming on tonight. And to all of you all over the world, thank you for giving us your time. Peace.